we move on with Mr. Gideon Lenkey, Director of Technology at Epsco Security Services.
All right, thank you. So thanks for joining us for this webinar. The COVID-19 has kind of forced us into a weird way of life, right? I really wish I was in Cyprus for this. Wish I was anywhere, able to travel anywhere right now, actually. But I know it's late in the day over there, so hang in there. It's a short presentation, and you know, it's really kind of neat that Manos and Larson had got to kind of the same point that I was going to make, or that I am making, but I'm making it in a little different way, right? So you heard some talk about the risk process and the importance of understanding risk. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today, but maybe at a different level. So I've only 20 minutes to give, you know, hopefully a meaningful talk to what I assume is a mixed audience. I can't see you, I can't hear you. I assume you're there. I hope there's someone there, but I'm assuming the audience is mixed of maritime executives and technical professionals. So I had to think of something that would be meaningful to both, and that could be conveyed in, say, 20 minutes. So I thought a little bit about where the industry is, and you know what I'm seeing in this industry. And I have a unique perspective because I've worked for 25 years in you know this industry, meaning cybersecurity, not maritime. We've been in maritime for about 5 years now. But over my career, I've got to work with all sorts of different types of companies. And I've seen the process of, you know, dealing with this new type of risk. And that kind of, in some cases, actually snuck up on them. I've seen industries that tried to kind of ignore it, tried to shift it onto insurance industry, etc. And you know, I've seen people do it really, really well, and I've seen people struggle with it. And I thought that it might be interesting to kind of rephrase this in terms of the types of conversations you have at the board level and the types of conversations you have at the C-suite. So to use Larson's term, the men who sit on the money chest, well, you know, you can couch this, you know, in one way, right? That everybody likes to lower operational costs, right? Everybody likes to save time. They like to save effort. Third-party audits and inquiries from, if you're a manager, from the owner, from business partners, trading partners, audits. Would you like those to be easier, right? And would you like to simplify this IMO compliance coming up in the year? So obviously the answer to those is, yeah, of course, it's a business. Who doesn't want to do this? So the one thing I'm seeing, successful companies, companies that do this in a way that make it look easy, right? They approach cybersecurity as a business process, just like every other business process. And in this case, instead of a normal type of risk, like, hey, is a hurricane going to knock out our offices, and what are our people going to do? They approach risk as digital risk, right? So what risk are we adding to our environment when we put a new computer system in, or a new network, or when we replace something that was mechanical or something that was physical with something that's now computational or something that's now digital, right? And then, of course, the added risk of, well, okay, what happens when we take those and we connect them, to the internet? So the companies that are doing this really well have just internalized this thing. They've stopped looking at it from a technical perspective. Sure, it's technical, but it's not a destination. Security isn't a destination that you arrive at. It's not a state you achieve. It's just a process, and that your business does every single day. And if you can visualize it like that, if you can actually implement it like that, suddenly the arm waving, oh my God, we're having an incident, becomes a report that you kind of go over at the end of the month. So the good news is risk management is an extremely familiar process all the way through the business. That's from the folks who are at the operational level understand this, especially in maritime. And the folks in the boardroom totally understand the risk management process. So when you frame it as risk management, as just another line item, just another item of risk management, you can kind of take that conversation from, we don't understand what you're talking about, right? You're talking about social engineering and password length and how many years, like Manos was talking about. Try and imagine that conversation in the boardroom. It's a hard one, right? Because you get that glazed look and people start shuffling around papers and they don't know what you're talking about. But when you start talking about quantifying a risk, then they've heard that before. They have a risk. They understand risk in terms of something that could happen to them that could cost them money. Like an oil leak, right? An accident, unexpected injury. They get it. They understand it. It's every day. So they already have the tools and processes in place to deal with it. They already have the mental processes in place to deal with it. So at its core, and at its very, very core, this is really what the IMO is asking you to do. The IMO is asking you to pick a guideline and then to provide evidence that you're adhering to some well thought out policies, that you understand your risk and you're taking the time to address it. Now, the tools to do this, I saw some that Larson had pulled up, some simplified versions of this. These things are all over the place. You actually have them in your company right now. If they don't exactly fit your, what you're trying to achieve, fire up Google or your favorite search engine, and you'll find them laying all over the internet. These took me seconds to find. This one I like a lot because it breaks it down into some very granular probabilities and costs, right? So, everything from something that happens very frequently but doesn't cost very much money to something that happens, that's almost never happens, but it's going to be like the black swan event, the thing that's going to take you out. And to kind of back up what Larson mentioned before, the targeted cyber attack and the nightmare scenarios that people put out there, it's not useful or helpful to panic. It's not useful or helpful to spread information that says, oh, well, this is gonna, your fleet's gonna be operational. Because at the C level, at the board level, they're gonna hear that and say, this just doesn't feel right to me, right? So you have to quantify risk that's in a plausible way. So the recipients, the guys who sit on the money chest, they're going to have to feel comfortable that what they're seeing and hearing is real, right? We're not seeing much in the way of, big outages. And when we do see a vessel that has had a negative impact that actually caused it to have to wait for something to be repaired because of damage to a computer system, it's unintended consequences almost always. So in other words, it wasn't targeted. It was just that, malware got on the machine. It it's spread to a few machines, and now they got to clean it up. They don't have the resources on board to clean it up, so they have to get someone in there in port to deal with it. Here's another one. Again, this is just an example of risk and mitigation measures. These things are out there in terms of quantifying risk, assessing the risk, and then documenting it in a way that you can address it systematically. And then when addressing it systematically, there are frameworks to do that. This is the kind of the top level map of the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. These things you've probably seen before, and you're going to continue to see them. The IMO even mentions in the circular that you should be managing with a framework, and the only one mentioned by name was the NIST cybersecurity framework. So it's a good, it's an excellent framework, and it's so flexible that it works with any guideline, any standard that you're working on, including if you're going for like an ISO 27001, you can manage all that, govern it through the framework, and again, freely available. So all the pieces are available: the guidelines, the framework, the use cases. Everyone has them available to them. But why do some companies just seem to do this with ease, and others just struggle with it, and some seem to never really get it? I've seen companies that I call it looping. They loop, right? So they have an incident, or they have some sort of initiative that causes chaos, or someone comes in and says, we really need to be doing this. Everybody gets all determined, and they affirm their determination. We're going to do this. We're going to deal with it. And then everybody goes back to sleep, right? And then the next incident wakes them up. I've seen companies loop like that for a decade before they finally it clicks and they get it. Not many, but some. You can go to the like the NIST 800-53. If you haven't downloaded that document, again, freely available, you should. Every single guideline, every single recommendation suite, even things like the 27001, you're going to recognize these controls from this inventory, the 800-53 inventory. There's published use cases and examples out there. You can find them. It's not hard. So what's the catch? Like, okay, all the pieces are there. Everybody kind of knows it's there. You now have a directive to do it. So what's going on? Why are people struggling? So the problem is, to do everything kind of requires you to become everything you need. And that's a tall order for most companies. There's a steep learning curve to a lot of this. I find that most IT organizations is where cybersecurity risk management lands, which that's almost a philosophical or religious conversation. But they're not used to the risk management process in most cases that I've seen. They're just it's kind of alien. So there's some learning there. There's oftentimes expensive tools, right? So, hey, we want to SIM, we want to run Splunk. Okay, get your wallet out, because that stuff gets pricey. There's also, when you start formulating a plan, the ROI becomes very opaque. It's real easy to demonstrate ROI when you have an established process that how much it costs. You know that you have to do it. And then we could do it this different way and demonstrate that we save money. Like that works, right? How do you demonstrate something that didn't happen? That's hard to do. And even when you try to do it, you're really guessing. You're saying, well, we know that if this happened, it might have cost that much. And because we mitigated it and it cost this, we saved that. That's quite a trick shot. But it's tough. The other thing that gets kind of hard is there's, cybersecurity and digital risk management is specialist manpower, right? It's not your, there are some disciplines that are just dark arts, and the resources aren't widely available for especially small to middle-sized companies, and they're expensive, and they also, if they're not getting to use their dark art, they will just leave to a company that is doing it. So this is a tall order for most companies. So the more defined this process becomes, the more commoditized it becomes. So just like every other business process you do in your company, when something becomes really, really understood and you've defined it, the focus then shifts on doing that thing more efficiently, right? So how do we do this with less effort, less time, and lower the cost of it so that we keep more of that money in our pocket, rather than kind of wasting it on an inefficient process. So the more mature that process becomes, the more of it is outsourced. And this is what happens in big and small companies. Because they find that rather than give a guy a bunch of hats, right, the number of skilled, the specialist skills involved is so numerous. Now you're getting an employee who has to do multiple tasks, and that gets to be a problem, because how are you going to, how's that person going to be efficient at what they do? So the employee that wears multiple hats will never be as efficient or proficient as a specialist in any given subject. And I've seen this take years to develop in companies. So that that employee, like let's say he's trained on your team, he's trained as the guy who helps try to figure out what malware is on the endpoint, right? He'll never compete in efficiency with an organization comprised of specialists who practice these skills all day, every day, because he only does it once a week, once a month. So how is he going to be efficient like the guy who does this all day, every day? It's just the nature of highly skilled work. So the companies today run with like this skeletal IT organization. Now you're going to train these guys. You're going to give them all their tools and expect them to have the efficiency of a big cybersecurity team at a massive company that has several floors in a building dedicated to their cybersecurity team. It's a hard ask. It's a big ask, and it's never going to be as efficient. Just the nature of it. Someone every now and then is never going to be as efficient as all day, every day. So that fits with the risk management model that best suits cybersecurity. Have your day-to-day, and then you have your incidents, which require deep dive by specialists, malware analysts, network protocol, that sort of network protocol analyst, for example. So if you want to get to the end of this journey, right, there's many paths to the top of a mountain, but there's one path that's always really, really well worn. And the companies that get there quickly and save the most time, money, and effort, they define it. They carefully define what they need to do. They understand every little piece of the risk that digital technology is bringing to their organization or their fleet or their specific vessel. It's always different. What is a massive risk to one company is nothing unusual to another. They refine it, and then they outsource it. At the end of the day, it usually gets outsourced. Like I say, unless you're managing tens of thousands of endpoints and you have your own division, internal company to service you, most companies will outsource all or part of this. So that leaves us to what I'm going to call a bit of a sales pitch. Now, hang out to the end. We do have something to. You can enter for a chance to win one of our RAS pen tests, which you can use on a vessel or a company. But what we do, my company here in the U.S. and for the last 5 years. There's a reason my company's done well for itself, and it's because we provide the services that help you get to the end of this. And these services are much needed in this industry right now. So I'm just going to take a quick minute, have a few minutes left, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can accelerate and service your program. So with the cybersecurity framework, we have a service. We will identify all of your controls that you're currently using. We'll help you with your risk assessment. And then we document all that with a mature set of document tools to help you communicate that and manage your risk. So regardless of the certification or recommendation you've chosen, it's turnkey. It takes you from, hey, we don't have anything formal to fully documented governance in about 90 days. So this will set your roadmap for a few years. It helps you communicate. This is the same process we've been using for over 20 years here in the US. Before there was a cybersecurity framework, it all goes back to basic risk management. So if you don't have that, if you're looking for that, if you're struggling, hey, where do we go next? Give us a call. We can have a conversation and we can help you get all of that into this framework. As far as managing what's going on the vessels, we have this is our next generation management product. It's a SIM that's agent-based. This SIM answered a lot of questions in the COVID pandemic here in the US because it's, again, agent-based. So there's no more firewalls, there's no more network border, there's nowhere you're here and safe, there's no castle mentality. We just see everything that happens. And it's super easy to deploy on a vessel or in an office. It also covers some other processes besides security event management. It provides continuous vulnerability assessment. So rather than doing an assessment, you're always assessed. You have continuous security configuration assessment. How hardened is your environment? Is it where you want it to be in terms of security hardness? Maritime really needs this. It's often overlooked, and it's so important. And now you can get it with something that deploys in about an hour on a vessel. There's no equipment required. And honestly, it's maritime priced. These things can be had for as low as $25 per vessel per month. So if you're looking to mature your process and do it very effectively, very efficiently, and lower your cost, schedule a demo of Radar. We also do testing. We've tested some of your infrastructures in classic pen team, red team pen tests. But we also have a product that's a little more vessel friendly. It's called a RASP. It's a rapid attack simulation pen test. It tests your vessel to see that your security controls are actually working and working the way you think they are. So it's all done remotely. It gives you a quantitative score, so you'll know with a number where you are. That helps you if you want to improve for when you want to make improvements. We provide very specific instructions, and then you can see that those have worked year to year if you're testing on an annual or biannual basis. It also provides a security configuration assessment and test the hygiene of the entire environment. This is done very inexpensively. It's done remotely. It's done quickly. It's perfect for the maritime environment. I will also, let me just go back to the Radar just for a second in terms of what something Manos said. Manos talked about the effectiveness of phishing going up during the pandemic, and I'd like to back that up and say, yeah, we have seen that phishing attacks increase several orders of magnitude over the past few months, and it's even our red teams are reporting that it's easier to phish people right now. So when we simulate a phishing attack on a company, it's just stuff we could get. We couldn't get a year ago. We can get now. Like, we can get their full credential set. We can actually call them and social engineer them to read us the code off their security token. It's amazing how easy it is right now to hack into companies. And with products like the radar, that gives us the vision inside inside those organizations, even though we're not in the firewall. We don't have a firewall there, and the user just has a home router. Again, it's fairly effective. Moving beyond your border, you have to account for that risk. So I apologize for the salesy piece at the end, but guys, I hope you take something away in terms of how to mature your process, how to frame the conversation with your C-suite and your board. And I really look forward to the industry as a whole maturing, like other industries, to make this just another business process that's used day to day. So now for a little bit of fun, if you go to our website and fill out a contact form and to get a quote for one of our products, you'll enter to win a RASP penetration test for one of your vessels or your offices, and we'll select the winner and notify by email tomorrow. So thanks for this opportunity to speak. I hope to see you all soon. Manos, I just wanted to comment that most people have COVID hair, but you're the only person I know whose hair got shorter during the pandemic. We're going to have an offline conversation about that. That's all I have, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gideon. That was very interesting, and it did raise a question in my mind. You did kind of mention something that was already discussed previously as outsourcing the planning of cybersecurity services and your cybersecurity system, let's say. Well, the question is, how can we ever, as a third party, really understand each company as well as the people working there? Because this is crucial. Because, as we said, no two companies are alike, I guess. There will always be something different. There will always be a different goal. There will always be different parameters to take into account. How do you go about really doing something focused and tailor-made for each company?
Yeah, really good question. And that comes to the process, right? So when we do these assessments, it's not that we're assessing the risk for you. It's that we're identifying the people in the room and facilitating the conversation and documenting the outcome of that conversation. So it's a process of identifying the stakeholders and then facilitating that conversation. Because it is unique. Even for vessel to vessel, it's unique.